the beauty, I think we found of the manufactured housing space, when they own, right? When the resident there owns and is vested in there, that's their home, right? That's their affordable housing option.
They started seeing what we were doing, and then a year later, now they're on our side and giving us the permits, no problem, just to do what we got to do because we enhanced the whole neighborhood.
The toughest thing in life is finding good people, and when you find them, you figure out a way to keep them around you. That's it. And we're back on the MHP Exchange Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Rizzo. Joining me is my PIC, which is not what you think. It's my partner in communities, Eric Busuttil. And we have a very special show, a very special program this time. Joining us today, part of the reason why we're doing this podcast in the first place is we want to be able to share information from community owners for community owners or potential community owners. Find out, what the challenges were, what we've done to overcome them, and some of the roadblocks, and really some of the, share the successes as well. So joining us today, we have Eddie Babalonia. He's from Alexandra Rentals and Jade Investments. Eddie's a community owner in West Virginia. He's got a really interesting story about why he is in that market. And more importantly, the success he's had, in the manufactured housing space. So I want to, thank Eric for being here. And Eddie, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Eddie, if you could just tell us, how long have you been investing in real estate?
About 30 years.
Could you just tell us a little bit about,
Sure.
Where you started and, where you are today?
Sure. When I was younger, my father used to take me on job sites. He was a general contractor. So he would do rehabs and renovations in the city, New York City. And I just became, I fell in love with it at an early age, but I was just too young to do anything. So as I graduated high school, I went to visit my cousin in West Virginia University, and we graduated at the same time. And from that, I opened up a pizzeria just from visitor right on campus. And then after a couple of years afterwards, we started accumulating, single family homes and properties. And one thing led to another, and I'm still doing it today.
Okay.
So right out of high school, right? No quote unquote formal training. Right into owning your own business.
Correct. Yes.
Wow. Why that's amazing is a lot of people think that you have to take all those steps from college before they can start their lives. And it's, the earlier you start, you make those mistakes. If obviously every business owner makes mistakes, but you make those mistakes while you're young, while you have that opportunity, and then go from there. And I started my first business in high school as well. I think that's great.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I try to push a lot of young people to go that route too, just because being in West Virginia University, you see so many kids that go to school and then come back and they're not doing anything what they studied for, or they're just in a 9-to-5 job that they could have gotten without it.
Got it.
Without that education.
So the makeup of your business started out, I guess what you said is in single families. I'm assuming some multifamily housing.
Correct.
And, that led you on. And I understand that you also own a manufactured housing community. Same town in Virginia?
Same town.
Okay.
Same town.
What do you like about the space? It's a little bit different, I'm assuming, than what you're used to. And you have that property for how long?
Just about 2 years now.
So here's the question. You're in, and I know you own some multifamily buildings in that town. Why would you decide, right, to put that aside and go into a mobile home park? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
Well, it was pretty easy just because we know the town already, and it was situated. Most mobile homes communities that I've seen are situated on the outskirts of the town. This happened to be right in the middle of the town that I never even knew was there. How about that? And it was just a one way in, one way out, and it was surrounded by nicer homes. And one day, a partner of mine came to me and said, "You want to buy a mobile home park?" I said, "Come on, really? And he said, yeah, it's right here. I said, no, it's not. I've never seen it before. And he took me there, and I was like, wow, it's like 3.5 acres, 42 lots. And I kind of fell in love real quick with it.
Really?
You know? Yeah, it was just one of those things where, okay, this is right here. Because there's so many options, and when you have a unique spot like that with mobile homes, because you could either continue it, fix it up, or get rid of them. And our original intention was like, okay, maybe we'll sell these and put, 30 townhomes here, 40 townhomes, whatever that was. And then it was just, you know what, let's keep it here.
So let's walk us through it. So you see this park you never knew existed right in the middle of town, right? Surrounded by, beautiful homes on both sides. And we've come across that multiple times, right? Location is so strategic, especially when you're in some of these other towns that you might not be very familiar with. Having a highly trafficked location, having nice things surrounding it. You always want to buy the ugliest house on the nicest block, not the nicest house on the ugliest block, right? And so now you have a 42-unit park. What was the condition when you first got there?
The condition when we first got there was it was deferred maintenance all over the place. What happened was some lady owned it, and she died. She passed away, and it got left to like 5 of her family members who none of them wanted to take control of the property. And a friend of my partner's came to him and told him this. And so it was kind of, what's behind the bones of this, like what's the makeup of it all. And we did our homework, and they wanted double of the price of what we paid, but it wasn't worth it at the time. And this is our first time getting into mobile homes, so we weren't sure how to value it, to be honest with you. So I had to do some research, and we figured it out, and that's kind of how we came across it.
You mentioned it's in a college town. We own a few properties in a few college towns as well, and we've had some success with college students in some of our properties as rentals, but we don't really do rentals. We have some renters in some of our properties, but our model is rent to own, or we sell them to individuals out there, or we finance them, or whatever. Do you do rentals to student? Do you have student housing in there?
We have student housing. This property isn't located in the student section,
okay,
so it's more residential. It's actually all residential.
But do you have college students that stay
that rent there?
Yeah.
We have 1 or 2, not too many. A lot of the units when we first took it over, they were empty. There was a lot of abandoned units that were there. That we have a construction company, so we were like, let's take these units. They come with the property, so basically they're free, and let's fix them up and do what we do. And we did that to about 12 of them, and we went from no income to, some of them are getting anywhere from $1,100 to $1,200 a month from putting about, I'd say about $10,000 to $12,000 in. So,
per home.
Yeah. So
okay.
It was,
what were the average ages of the homes there?
The average age of the homes there were anywhere from 1980 to 2010.
Typical bag of nuts in a mobile home park.
What made you switch, right? You said you originally looked at it, thought you were going to just do a townhouse development there, right? Just going to do ground up construction. What made you say, hey, we want to operate this as a mobile home park? We see value in doing it, running it that way.
I would say just because we've never done it before, and we're like, let's try something different. Let's see what this mobile home, people are starting to get it. You're starting to hear it a little bit more 2 years ago than you ever did before. So I was like, all right, let's try it. Like we have the crew, we have the infrastructure in place to get these units to where we want them to be, and let's just try it. If anything, we could always sell them. Like you said earlier, like you guys do, just sell them and then just collect the rent on the dirt. And we're still playing with that right now, just because it's a different type of renter, the mobile home renter, compared to your average, multifamily rental tenant. So,
What would you say is the biggest difference that you found?
tenant-wise,
Tenant-wise.
they're just a different animal. It's just, they don't.
It is. Listen, owning a mobile home park, and I know that's why it's so different for even people coming into that have they're savvy real estate investors. If you don't grab a handle on it, there's just a difference, right? And
yes.
And sometimes you might not be able to put the spec on it, but you just know it's a different ball of wax you're dealing with.
So when our first property that we purchased, we started out renting them as well. And if I had to describe it, it was, and I have experience in, multifamily and, residential properties before, mobile home parks. It's, the tenants are very transient unless you get into an older category of tenants. And when we noticed there was a lot of transient tenants, meaning, they come in for a year and they're on to another property, and they met some girl. Let me rent the house and have a family, and then 6 months later, they're like, this girl's not for me. I'm moving on to the next property. I think that was the biggest thing that led us to kind of say, hey, we need to figure out how to get a longer term tenant, and that's why we switched over to, either selling the homes, renting them to own, or just selling them all together. But we do see some people who are also very successful, renting them. And typically they're people who find, older couples or, because you have a big family or a growing family, I guess at a younger age. I mean, that's one of the reasons it becomes, a very transient person coming in and out of our properties as well. That was my experience.
Going through right now, we're just trying to experience that. And we're young, 2 years into it, and we're fixing them up as we go and renting them out. And we have those exact type of tenants that you're describing, and it just, some of them are great, but some of them are also, very shot,
Yeah, if you have a multifamily building, right? There is some transitioning in my experience.
But the people transitioning from a multifamily building, typically, their transition is they're in a rental to go to a home. Right? They're in a rental, and then as either their family grows or their income accelerates, they're going to go to a traditional stick-built home. That's typically the walkthrough. In this space, you lose people who are good. It's usually the 3 Ds, right? Death, drugs, or divorce, right? Something happens along those lines, and then you have some challenge, right? When they're renting. The beauty, I think we found of the manufactured housing space, when they own, right? When the resident there owns and is vested in there, that's their home, right? That's their affordable housing option. And that's where you get longevity, right? And you get stability, right? Because now they're vested in that's their home. They want to be there, and they want to see that community built around.
Well, and one of the things that, we learned early on, thankfully, we learned this by trial and experience, and we tried hiring a third-party management company. We didn't have other properties in the space, and we ended up self-managing a park 16 hours from where we lived inside of 6 months of owning the property, thinking we were able to hire a company and handle this. And they were like me or you. They knew nothing, and it was just impossible. Are you self-managing this property?
Well, my management company manages it.
Okay.
We have a management company, in-house management company.
Self-managing it.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, we have a couple hundred units, so it's easier for someone like me to do it than going into another town and trying to create something new there. So we already had the infrastructure in place. So that's how it's easier for us to do that.
So now you're in a phase where you're experiencing, you spent all this money, you got the units occupied, and you had a tenant there for a year, and they're leaving, and now you got to re-rent them.
Correct.
So are you going to continue? Have you made a decision as to if you're going to just continue to rent them, or are you considering selling them?
Me and my partners right now, we're at that crossroads to where we're debating whether to, let's ask these renters if they want to buy these units, because we have found out that the people that do own in the park, once we came in and we upgraded everything, those lifelongers in the park loved us, and they were actually pitching in to help get the park back to where it was, because their lifelongers there. Yes. They want to be there, and they want the place to be more presentable than it was before. They want to come home to a nice looking place, and they own their home. So they were great. And some of the ones that come in and out, you know, we had to get rid of some of the drug units that were there. We had to kick them out. That took a 3-4 months to get them out, but they were happy about that.
And that's one of the bigger. I mean, I think you can't discount how big a value add that is, especially when you first go into a community. Like, so, you know, you come into one of these communities, and this happens in a lot of the communities that we've acquired through the years. Like, legacy owner, right? You know, they pass or they're ready to exit, but they just haven't been managing the community the way it was. So things that they might have eliminated right away kind of festers, right? Whether it's drugs or rowdy neighbors or something that's messing with the culture of that community and weighing it down. And then when it changes hands to people who aren't necessarily operators or really didn't want to be in that space in the first place, they might keep it for the income for a short while, but they're not running it the way it should be, yes, right? Correct. And the biggest value you could do for the residents, number one, is say, look, I don't even care if you're paying, but if you're disturbing the quality of life, you've got to go, right? You have to instill that culture day one, right? And it's so impactful. It takes time, right? But it's the lowest cost, highest impact improvement you can make on the community day one, right? Is eliminating
100%.
People who just are impacting people's quality of life.
Even the city didn't want once we purchased it, they gave us such a hard time on adding new units there. They wanted it to be closed.
Bad rep.
And then they started seeing what we were doing, and then a year later, now they're on our side and giving us the permits, no problem, just to do what we got to do because we enhanced the whole neighborhood.
So that's a great point. And Eddie and I have spoken for the last couple of years. I know him, right, and I know his partner, and we've spoken about the park a few times. I know you guys had some interesting things with the city, right? You were trying to get some work done. I think you were trying to expand. You were trying to do an expansion on the community as well.
Just a couple lots.
Okay,
a couple lots.
So how was that process? How did you turn them over, right? So how did you get the community? Because we've got an interesting story about how we won over one community on the homes we were bringing in. How did you win over the community to get them on your side, to see what you were doing, and to allow you to execute your business plan?
My boots on the ground partner over there, great kid. He is very personal, but he's also one that cares about the community, and he was caring, and he was getting he was getting everything thrown at him in the beginning, and he had to warm up to them as we had to warm up to them as well. It was a relationship. It was a marriage with the town, and in the beginning it was rocky. What we did was just go to more community board meetings and show them what we were doing infrastructure wise. The piping on the ground, it was just falling apart. Redoing that, them ending up helping us with that. It just, and these little towns, sometimes they certain people in those towns who are in control, it's, they want to be the big bad guy, showing that they're in control instead of, us telling them what we're going to do. They got to tell us what to do.
Got it. So we had a story, and Eric, you kind of spearheaded that effort where there was a change, right, in the rules of the types of the homes we wanted to get in, but you were able to.
We've ran into that situation pretty much in every town that we've been in, right? And yes, the proof is in the pudding. Once they see that you're looking to, enhance the community, not just run it, how it's been ran in the past, you typically get a town or a city or small city or whatever on your side, and we've actually built some great relationships where when we need stuff, they're happy to help us if they can. We ran into a couple obstacles. We had this one story where property was, a disaster. Property was a disaster.
Probably one of the worst communities we took over day one.
It was in the middle of town too. Middle of the city.
Right off the highway.
Like everybody knew it. Everybody knew what it was. It had just a bad rep. And we came in there and
there was somebody in the back of the community breeding pit bulls that without offense and not change.
Right.
But just breeding them, and nobody wanted to go into the community because you just had pit bulls roaming the grounds.
So you could renovate homes, you could bring in used homes, you could bring in new homes, but sometimes new homes just don't work, right? So this particular town, we decided we were gonna upgrade the homes that were there, and we even upgraded the homes of people that already lived there that we didn't even own the homes. We upgraded those homes, and it took a little bit of time. And while we were in the middle of this, we purchased 16 used homes, but they were basically shells. They weren't exactly shells, but they needed a full rehab. We purchased them already. We were planning on moving them in, and literally that day that I was going to start moving the homes in, an ordinance came out that basically said the home had to be a certain width. The home had to be a certain square footage. The roof had to have a certain pitch. And it was just like, did they do this purposely for us?
Right.
And I don't think they did. But I think part of, this new ordinance had to do with, a new company, new to the town, coming in and buying the property. And listen, all it really took was us getting to know the people, and then and they gave us an exception. Took a little bit of time, but they seen what we did, and in the short period that we were there, we cleaned up the pit bulls, the drugs, a couple guys were using it, as commercial auto repair centers, and it was just you came into this city and this is what you knew.
Right.
As soon as we've been in that situation, and exactly what you said is what you have to do. You got to make some friends. You got to show them that you're doing a good job. You care about what you're doing. That's the most important thing.
And having a plan, showing them that, hey, we're not going about this, from the seat of our pants. Here's our plan, right? And fortunately, we had a book of business that we could show them and results before. But also, we have a plan. This is our goal. This is where we're looking to take this community, and it kind of fit in with everything, right? And that makes it easy for them to make that decision to say, all right, if we're going to give you a variance or if we're going to work with you, we've got a good working partner, right?
Sure. You're not in it just for the flip to make some quick buck.
Or run it the way it was, right?
Sure.
We're not going to allow
Continue it.
certain things to fester, and then you're going to have an eyesore a bigger eyesore in the middle of your city.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And then they love that. Love it.
Yeah, because you're taking the ugliest house on the block and you're turning it in on the nicest block, and you're making it match the rest of what they're trying to do, right? And you're willing to make that investment to do that.
Correct. And what you said earlier was you actually fixed some of the homes in the park or made them look better of the ones that you didn't even own.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we did that went over pretty well as well.
So as you know, and I'm sure you're realizing this because you probably renovated these homes beautifully, and you had a couple tenants come in there and you got to re-renovate them after a year or a year and a half.
Sure.
That walked out.
It's the business.
One of the things that we've realized is that these homes could last forever. A mobile home could last 50 years. We have some homes in our park that are 50 years old that you would think is brand new, right? But if you don't take care of the little things, they could turn into big things.
Absolutely.
So when you're trying to, either bring in new homes or upgrade homes that you do own, it's easy to see if somebody's there and they own a home and they just, the roof is a simple fix sometimes, whether you have to cool seal it or put a new roof on, and it goes a million miles too, because typically that person that has not done that, they can't afford it, right? So you come in there, and that also changes the culture, and that doesn't just make
absolutely.
the property look better. And those are some of the things that we typically will come in and we'll we'll speak to the tenants and we'll say, hey man, this roof needs to be done. And, if you don't fix that roof, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be their problem. But if they can't afford to do the roof, they're not going to be
your problem.
It's going to be your problem eventually. Anyway. Yeah. So
and everybody else in the park's problem.
Exactly. So it solves a lot of problems for everybody. It solves your problem, solves their problem.
And then when you want to bring in new residents, right, which is also the added benefit, right? You want to bring in new residents or infill. It is, and you're getting a great rent, right? So you're renting those. You're getting. I'm sure in that market, you're probably at the higher end of the scale, right?
For
a rental.
For those mobile homes. Yes.
You can't do that. You can't get that number if the home next to it, whether you own it or not,
correct,
has degraded, right? If that skirting is tore off and that underbelly is you're looking at it, it's just not going to get your consumer, that potential resident is going to look at that and say, well, that's a great home. You did a great job, Eddie. I love the finish, right? I love getting in there. But to the right or left of me, I'm going to go out there, and I don't feel like it's that type of that community warrants that. So that little additional investment goes such a long way.
And sometimes it's not just the whole community; it's the one that's right next door. Like we brought in a new home, and it was next to an older home,
brand new home,
brand new one,
brand new.
We wanted a certain amount of money, but the one next to it was an older one. So what we had to do is we painted the whole unit and put a new roof on it, and then we got the money that we wanted right next to it.
How do you like bringing in new homes? That's a good market to bring in new homes?
I'm not sure what a good market or a bad market is to bring in new homes yet, but we like them because it's they're newer, they're easier to rent, it's just easier. It's easier. You put them in, you hook the utilities up to it, and
you're done.
You're done.
Fix and forget.
At
least for
that unit.
24 to 36 months.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what would you say was the biggest challenge getting into the space?
The biggest challenge getting into the space was
you faced since you've acquired the park.
I would say in the beginning it was the town itself. It was the town not wanting us to continue the use of space. So that's what we touched on earlier, and that was our biggest issue there,
right,
as far as that goes. But some of the tenants, they come and go, but for the most part, it's better than what I expected.
Okay.
From the original thought process of it all.
So the main reason that it's probably better than you expected is because you're operating it yourself, you and a partner, right?
Right.
That's probably, and you're in that area, right? So you have a team. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
If you didn't have that team down
Couldn't
there
do it.
and you were driving down there to that city just to deal with that mobile home park,
Yes.
not to say that you wouldn't be able to do it, but that's where we ran into our challenges because we didn't have a team in a lot of these places that we purchased. So having your team there and your boots on the ground, I mean, I'm imagining that, because of that and because of your experience, it sounds like you would buy another mobile home community. If it presented itself to you.
I would if I had the right infrastructure in place. There was a time when I had units that I didn't have a management company. I had a management company actually working it, and they were horrible. And I went from management company to management company, and it was like, I could do a better job 500 miles away than they could do it right here,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've come across many times, just from going from management company to management company.
We actually got fired from our management company.
You were too tough?
We would
Driving them crazy.
we were driving them crazy. We're in the business. Obviously, we have certain expectations that I would want to deliver for my clients, right?
Absolutely.
And so we expected the same type of results. We didn't like their process. I don't think they fully understood the space, and they were just not able to execute. And so, and I had been involved in a mobile home park before, which was a few years back. We came in here and we just decided one Thursday, it was in January, and we just said, we're going to take control of this ourselves. We drove through the night, I called everybody who had contacted the management company in the last 90 days looking for a place. We went there, showed up there Friday, started showing units. On Monday, we dropped off the keys in their mailbox, and we had like 7 of the units filled in a 48-hour period.
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
And the only way you're going to get experience here is by pulling up your sleeves and doing it yourself. And now knowing this, it has made us able to operate these parks from a distance, right? Because we know, and that's another thing that, in case you don't know of, if you could handle this one property, you could probably handle another property, even if it's outside of your little area.
I will give credit to my team. They go above and beyond, which makes my job easier. So, I mean, if you have those right people that you're connected to, even partners, they're great.
That's the main thing. The toughest thing in life is finding good people, and when you find them, you figure out a way to keep them around you. That's it, right? That's why him and I are still together, right?
Love it.
So, Eddie, anything else you want to?
I was going to say.
You can.
Yeah, one of our biggest controversy is that he's not free, but I'm free.
Free? That could go many different ways there.
We'll talk about this another time.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Eddie?
Next
for you in the manufactured housing space. What's next?
Next, we're figuring out what we're going to do with this park because we still have some empty lots yet. We're not sure if we had somebody that was looking at it, and they kind of flaked out, which it happens. But we're at that crossroads right now to where do we want to continue the park and finish it off and keep it for the long term, or do we want to sell the homes and just collect lot rent instead of having to worry about them? Because there is a lot more that could go wrong with a mobile home than an apartment building. I mean, apartment building got one roof, you got 4 walls instead with 42 lots, you have 42 roofs. Which is a big difference. But I think we're leaning toward more of selling the homes to tenants or potential tenants, and then just using that lot rent just to maintain the property and seeing how that goes. Because we already have that infrastructure in place with the team, and the team, my teams, sometimes my internal team, like the management side of it, the back end, they didn't love it because there was a lot more things that they had that they weren't used to far as just dealing with those types of people.
Well, and you know what? That goes back to not being able to find, there's very few management companies that focus in the manufactured housing space. It's just a different core competency. They don't get it. And if, we tell our people we're not local, we're very hands-on, right? So when residents come in, we're not local, we're very hands-on. We have a team that kind of grew up in the space, and this is all they know. So they didn't have to switch over to learning a different, from, whether it's multifamily or single family rentals. They just knew manufactured housing, and they came through that experience. But even when they own the homes, there's a connection to the community that you don't normally get in a multifamily building, right? I could live in a complex, and you live there, right? It's a functional thing, right? And it's a different type of resident. But when somebody lives in a community, they feel different about that space, and they want to have that connection with the management company or with the owner, that they care just as much.
Right. There's that pride and ownership.
So even if you just run it a lot, you got to make sure there's some sort of connectivity with that community, which is a little different. And if but you've done a lot of work in 2 years, and you should that should really pat yourself on the back for that, because a 2-year turnaround, that's great timing. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I give it to my team. Definitely.
So Eddie, thank you very much for being here today. I'm very happy that we were able to speak to somebody in this opportune moment of, he's one park, 2 years in after, being in multifamily housing, just you went through exactly what we went through when we bought our first property. And it sounds like you're going kind of along the same path that we went in regards to what we wanted to do. I hope that it works out there for you, and
Thank
I
you.
hope that you continue in this. And if you ever need anything, or if you ever have any questions, that's why we have this show, because we want to share people our experiences. And we've
Sure.
this is we're on park number 19 at the moment.
Oh, that's great.
So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
And thanks to Too Many Topics Podcast, production company, for producing this.
And make sure, fellas, if you have any questions, please, you can catch us on the MHP Exchange. Any questions about anything in regards to this, please give me a call.
Yeah, and the MHPExchange.com, your source for all information on mobile home park industry happenings, deals that have closed, financing opportunities, and properties that are for sale in a market near you. So check out the mobilehomeparkexchange.com. You definitely want to check that out.